Yeah.
All right, so welcome to the fall executive meeting. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce the officer team and let them talk about their things. And then I'm going to talk about a few things. We have Tyrell Andrews, who is your president. You have Rachel Washam, who is your vice president. You have Tandem Young, who is our chief financial officer. Liz Lane, who is our chief programming officer. And then we also have Matthew Liggett, who is our parliamentarian. Go ahead, Tyrell.
All right, guys. So what I'm just going to do a general overview of everything we really went over during the fall, the fall retreat. Sorry. So we didn't make any large changes to anything. There were a couple changes that we made, and I'm also going to go over the calendar for the fall. So one of the first changes we made was to the point totals in the Go chapter. It's not a big change. We just changed two little things to where the point totals are now 102 instead of a solid 100. It never had to be 100, so there was just some things that we thought were more important, and we adjusted the point totals accordingly. And then the other thing we really changed is we changed the name of Gold Member to Member of the Year. That was one of the larger changes we made. Everything in there mostly stayed the same, so there's no big differences. Both Go Chapter and Go Member of the Year still do have mandatory things to sign to be qualified for either of those things, and we are encouraging more schools to apply for those two competitions, especially. Let's see, and then the calendar this year. So for which is the fall executive meeting, which is today, September 8th. And then our first membership due date is going to be October 20th, 2022. So that's going to be the first due date for like all membership to be turned into the state. Then the fall conference, which is going to be at Pulaski Tech this fall, is going to be on October 21st, 2022, which is the day after those memberships are due. And then the last thing that we have for the fall date-wise is going to be the fall newsletter submission, which the due date is going to be October 28th. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Liz.
Okay. So this year for our community service theme, it is going to be community connections. Basically, you guys get out there, get in your communities. There are so many opportunities for you guys to volunteer with your schools. If you have a boys and girls club, check with your city councils to see if they need your help at any events. I know the fair is going on and coming up. Any way that you can just get out into the community and help. You have a lot of free reign here on things that you can do to help. Just any way that you can be a positive contribution to your community.
All right. Next on the list, we have Rachel, who's going to just tell us about Listserv and any relevant information she has.
Hi, so this year we are going to have a listserv that will go out. Any emails that we send out with information, we will send out to the listserv, and we definitely want advisors' information for that. So whoever the advisor is, just need their name and contact information. If you have more than one advisor for your school and you would both like to be on the listserv, you can go ahead and send either Megan or I your contact information. We would also like to have at least one student representative from each school on the listserv, just so they are able to know what's going on as well. We have other ways that people can know what's going on, including a GroupMe and a Discord, and then Instagram and Facebook as well. But we do want our student representatives on the listserv. So if you don't mind, if you are either a student on here, to find a student representative for your chapter or an advisor, and let them know to send us their name, and then if they are an officer, what their position is, and then their email information and their contact information. So that's kind of what I have on the listserv for now. And so if anyone has any questions, just feel free to let me know.
All right, and regarding the listserv, it is very important that we do have some type of either you guys is a local officer or some type of person that's just a member that is on the listserv, just to make sure the flow of information isn't stopping anywhere, because we had an issue with that last year with some information from the state officer team not initially making it to the students. So that's why we're trying to get student representatives and trying to make sure that like the information flow is constantly moving properly. And then we have Tandem, who's going to talk about sponsorships.
All right, so what I've got is just a little 5-step guide for acquiring sponsorships. So step 1 for that is going to be needing to understand what the funds are going to be covering. So, it's always a good idea to have this sort of in mind when you're reaching out to people or business owners. So that way it's easier to explain if you know what they're going to cover. And so this will be to offset the costs of food and supplies for conferences, rental for conference spaces, sponsoring the competitions, the judges. And so things like that, they can add up pretty quickly. So it's a good idea to get the ball rolling on this sort of thing to try and get those sponsorships acquired. And so step 2 for that will be, analyzing your community for potential donors or sponsors. And so some examples of that would be businesses, they could be local CPA practices, financial advisors, real estate agents, doctors who have their own sort of private practices, people that really thrive off getting their name out there and from having it in a public environment like that. But then again, it doesn't have to be business owners. It can be, just general individuals. It can be your own parents if they really feel like sponsoring. And so the next step after that would be putting together your pitch to explain to these individuals. It's an important step because it's where everything really comes together. And if you have a really solid foundation for that, it will get the point across a whole lot better. And so this should include any of the benefits that the business owners or individuals will be receiving, which is outlined in a sponsorship document that we have, and how that will in turn benefit our organization. And then step 4 will be actually contacting the prospective sponsor. And this can be done in all manner of ways, through email, phone calls. But personally, with the experience that I've had, I find that going there in person and reaching out to the individual makes more of an impact. And so then you can have that conversation, that one-on-one connection with them, really get the point across. And then step 5 is send them a thank you card. Thank them for taking the time to meet you, regardless of if they became a sponsor or not, but especially if they did become a sponsor. And so in my opinion, this the best way to go about this is the handwritten, hand addressed note. It adds a nice personal touch and it shows that you really cared. But if finding that address information is not an option, you can always send them an email thanking them for their time as well. And you never know, if they chose not to sponsor, the sincerity and time that you put into creating that handwritten note and thanking them for their time, it might make them reconsider. You never know. It's always just a good little touch to have. And that's all I got.
Okay, I just wanted to let you guys know that some of the information about the sponsorship levels and things like that are under resources on the website. So if you want to look into more detail for that, and there's also a link to a form that they can just easily fill out online under resources. It says become a sponsor, and they can easily just fill that out online and put whatever they want to be a sponsor for, and if they're interested in judging or anything like that as well. So I just want to let you guys know that that is there, but if you have any other questions about that, I can also help you get those resources if you have trouble finding them.
All right, and I just want to reconvey the importance of filling out that form to so that we all know who's asking who for money. So that one school is like 5 schools isn't asking the same person for the same amount of money but for the same thing over and over again. So as soon as you get a sponsor, just make sure you go online and fill out that form so that we know, so that we won't go behind you and ask the same company for money or anything like that. All right, Megan, do you have anything to add?
I do. I have a couple of announcements related to competitive events that have changed. There are 11 events that have been retired now: accounting analysis and decision making, accounting for professionals, cost accounting, financial analysis and decision making, financial services, forensic accounting, hospitality management, insurance concepts, justice admin, personal finance, and statistical analysis. Many of those have now been rolled into what they're going to be introducing as a year-long case study, and that will be just accounting, finance, and hospitality. As soon as they send me the information about how to proceed with those, I'll send that information out. A couple of other procedural changes that they've made about events. In the past, if you were on a team and you top 10, you were allowed to compete again if you changed your other team members out. Now, if you have top 10, you cannot compete again at all. They've also now removed time penalties. So there's no more time penalties from your events. And then objective tests now. In the past, you could take all the tests together unless you were Parley Pro. Everybody has to take their own tests now.
All right, one last thing. If you were a national, I'm sure you heard that our official name is changing. We are no longer Arkansas PBO, but we do have time to make that change. So none of the chapters should freak out about, oh my God, I have to change everything. No, we have a little bit of time to make the change. That's why Rachel just today changed our email address, which is now ARFBLA Collegiate at gmail.com. And so these changes are going to come by slow. We're not changing everything at one time. Our website is still ARPBL at the moment. So don't freak out. We're going to be there with you to make these changes, and they're going to come by slow. Like, they're not going to be all of a sudden. And we do not have the logos yet. We haven't received those from nationals yet either. So I almost forgot, but yeah, we haven't received the logos yet, but we'll be getting those to you all as soon as we see them. Is there anything else? Seeing there's nothing, I call this meeting to an end.